Okay, we are back live at iSolve Connect in Scottsdale, Arizona for the Heroes of HR podcast. We have two guests right now. We have one grown guest and one younger guest. Family, I'm guessing?
Yes.
All right.
I chose to bring my son with me on this
awesome.
trip, which has been a lot of fun.
How do you like it so far?
I think it's pretty cool here. Not in temperature, though.
No? You don't like the temperature?
I like the temperature, but back home, it's like 30 degrees.
Oh, so you're East Coast too? What?
Yeah.
Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm in Philly. So when I left, it was 34. It was
Yep.
34, and now we're here. Yeah. So I'm
Nice
with you.
change.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Okay, so let's start off with introduction. So give us your name and tell us what you do.
Yeah, I am Tara Cooper. I'm also known as Coop. I run the HR Tech Analyst practice at Mercer, and I'm here at the iSolved event. I was a speaker talking about the talent experience and how that is quickly changing.
It sure is. There's no doubt about that. And then we have...
I am Aiden Cooper, son of Tara Cooper, who just spoke at an iSolved event. So.
He's fantastic. I love this. See, now I brought one of my kids to an event before. Actually, my eldest was here not here, but in Philly last week.
Oh, nice.
She came down to speak with Emily, who's just walking by. I can't get anything out of her. So the fact that you're sitting here talking is amazing. And I'm going to show the video to them because they don't do this. They just want to come and sit by the pool.
See, the prerequisite was he had to attend some sessions with me.
Oh, okay.
And I told him if we were going to do this, like, he has to talk. So
there we go.
That's the rule. Like,
Yeah.
you got to have the right expectations coming into it.
Yeah, mine would not do that. She also came to UNC, at the UNC Charlotte one, and of course she wanted to see the campus.
Yes.
Because we're looking at schools now. And she loved the school, loved the campus, didn't do one thing at the event. Wouldn't come in, didn't talk to anybody. I'm like, everybody here is something. They're doing something you potentially will do. Go talk.
Yes.
Couldn't get them to talk. So
All related to work. So
I love that you're here. Yeah, I love that you're here. So let's start with your session. What did you talk about? Tell us about your session.
So I talked about the talent experience, and this is one of the things I've been talking with the iSolve team about is how we need to start co-creating that. There's obviously a big breakdown in trust across the organizations today. And that's something it's kind of a two-way street. What's really interesting is everyone approaches this from this mindset of growth, right? Candidates are looking for opportunity growth. They want to grow their careers. It's one of the number one things that our research says that they're looking for when they take a job. And we also see employers saying similar things. They want to bring people in. They want them to grow with them. They want to continue to engage them, retain them.
So where's the disconnect?
People aren't upskilling. They're not growing. They're not doing the things. And sometimes that's on us. It's us not setting the right expectations from the talent side right out of the gates to create the right trust that this is what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot like dating, right? At first, you want everyone to think like it's a perfect exterior. And then over time, the flaws start to show. But what if we showed up and we actually admitted, like, hey, I'm not a dog person. I'm never going to get a dog. We're not going to make this work. If you want to have a dog, that's just not going to work. But that has to start, I think, on the employer side. I don't think we can expect candidates to show up completely honestly and raw because they're trying to get the job, right? But if we can, as employers, start to set the right expectations for what work really looks like, how AI is going to impact us. Like, you're going to come into this role, but this role is going to change rapidly.
Right.
And we may not know exactly what that looks like, but here's how we want you to come in and help us co-create that.
Right.
So I think
and are you comfortable with that?
Exactly. Exactly. Do you want to be part of this journey with us? And one of the big things that we talked about was finding more of that fit between the motivations that you want to see in the workforce. Where do you want to go? Do we have the right values aligned? Part of our research shows that there's a big alignment between being proud to work for your company and being willing to upskill, which is a huge part of the talent experience today, especially with AI. And folks that are not proud to work for their organization are 5 times as likely to spend absolutely no time learning new skills for their job, no time at all.
But still getting paid and still working at the job.
Exactly, exactly. And that's not benefiting either side. It's not benefiting that candidate that got hired and is now miserable in that job. It's not benefiting the employer who ended up with someone who is miserable and not producing and engaging the way that they possibly could. And how do we start to show up more authentically to create better connections?
Now, do you find that that's generational, where an employee will not upskill? We're talking like older generations, like, I'm going to retire in 6 years. I don't need to do this. I'm just going to float through? Or,
we do see a bit of that. Certainly as you go through your generations, we see a little bit less likelihood that you're going to engage in upskilling for that exact mentality. Like, what's in it for me? I'm not going to be here in 5 years. I'm going to retire anyway. But we also see right now, people staying in the workforce a lot longer, often because they're required to. And so we can't just ignore that faction of the population to say that they shouldn't be coming along. But this is really something we see more universal across all demographics, all generations, and that sort of thing. There has to be incentive to want to upskill and to want to learn. And a lot of that doesn't even come from the job itself. It comes from your relationship with your manager. From being proud to work for that company to feeling a sense of belonging. Like all of those elements make a big difference, but also fair pay.
Well, fair pay helps.
If I'm not getting paid, what's the point of upskilling, right?
Yeah.
And so those are the factors that, regardless of, whether you're a new hire or you've been in the workforce for decades, if you don't feel that you're getting a fair shake, if there's no upside for you,
there's no loyalty there.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no reason to participate in that upskilling.
Yeah. A couple of interviews ago, we had a sister duo. They worked at, I can't remember the name of the company, but she was there. One was there 25 years. The other was there 18 years. And I was blown away. I was like, how? Like, why?
Today,
yeah, like that's rare. And they were there when it was a couple of people, and they grew to a couple hundred people, and they run benefits, and they just love their job. And it's a small community company, and it works. But that loyalty doesn't exist in larger organizations, at least from what I see.
No, it has to be created. It's not something that's just going to show up. And a lot of that comes from the manager level, which is another thing our research shows. The C-suite is putting more and more pressure on that manager level because they realize, especially when it comes to unlocking things from AI, you've got to unlock it there. That is, again, where if I believe that my manager is going to support my growth, even if it means leaving their team, I'm twice as likely to spend 15% or more of my time learning new skills for work. Having that connective tissue makes a really big difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Yeah. So I want to ask you a question here.
Yep.
So I have 3 kids. I have 3 girls. They're 18, 15, and 12. So question I have is, the 18-year-old's applying for jobs. She works. She has 3 different jobs in high school. She's applying to colleges. She refuses to apply to a job where she has to fill out an application. She just won't do it. Not until they hire her. Then she'll fill out the paperwork. And that blows my mind. And it hurts me a little bit inside, a lot inside, I'm not going to lie, because of the industry we're in. I'm like, why? Like, why won't you apply for a job? It's not interesting to her. So if you're looking for a job and you have to fill out a bunch of paperwork before you can even talk to someone about the job, what do you think about that?
I mean, it has to be a job that you're going to commit a lot to. So if it's just a job that you're wanting to keep part-time and not like be fully invested into it, I don't think you should do that. But like if you want to spend most of your time in that job and you feel comfortable with it, then I would fill out those paperworks.
I see, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's that interest level. Yeah. But maybe your daughter's issue is that they haven't met her at that interest level. Again, like have they told her what this is actually going to do for her, or have they just given her a bland job description?
It's just a bland description and or a paper application. And that blows my mind.
And that too,
the
paper application. And this is the piece that we've been talking a lot about AI readiness is so many organizations are not AI ready, a lot because of people and skills and things like that. But so many are actually on paper. How do you apply AI when something is living in paper format? You can't learn from that. You can't grow. You can't make interviewing or selection any better. So it's, I completely understand. And it should be up to the latest generations to push back and say, that's not how we do things now.
Yeah. Well, so she just applied to the YMCA. Just have YMCAs I'm sure, right? So she applied for a lifeguard position. And, well, she thought she did. So she read the job description and it said, contact us here. And it had a phone number. So she took out her phone and she texted the information to the whoever it was. And said, I'd like to apply for the job. She didn't get a call back. She didn't get a text back, a call back, anything. So it was a week. So I said, well, reach out to him again. Here, in my mind, I'm thinking she's calling them. She texts again. No reply. I said, well, that's weird. It's the YMCA. Like, this job's been up for because you can see when it was posted, it was up for a few months for a lifeguard. So I looked at it and I said, Erin, this is a landline. This isn't a mobile phone number you can text to. She's like, what do you mean? It's like, Jesus God, you're 18. You don't know what a landline, like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, but they didn't grow up with that. So why would they think that a normal way that we communicate is not a way that an employer would communicate? And they're not wrong. I mean, in business, I communicate with business partners via text. And text has been around a long time. It's not like we're asking people to Snapchat.
No.
This is pretty basic technology
probably
that we all have.
Yeah, probably why the position's been open.
Exactly.
Because the kids are texting.
Yes. You're not going to get a 60-year-old lifeguard applying to this role. You're going to get kids who are tech savvy and expecting a different experience.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'll put this out there for both of you because I want to get, this is a debate that William, who's not here today, he and I have been having going back and forth. So scenario is you're in a job interview. So maybe I'm interviewing you or you're interviewing, him or someone else younger. And as they're talking to you, they pick up their phone and they're talking to you, but they're on their phone. You don't know what they're doing, but they're on their phone. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. I identify as Gen X. So, I grew up in an analog scenario, and there's a respect aspect of like you're talking to someone holding a conversation. You should be looking at them and communicating.
Right.
That said, I also really appreciate good research and being able to be prepared. And I am a very prepared person. I'm very type A. If I showed up to an interview, you can bet I'd have 5 pages of notes of things that I might want to make sure I touch on and don't forget about that I could be glancing at that moment.
Right.
But then there is this aspect of, are they cheating?
Right.
Is it AI that they're looking at?
Right.
But also in today's day and age, first of all, if you're able to carry on a conversation while using AI and effectively communicating with me, why is that a deficit? I do have to start challenging. Yes, I know we are inundated with, AI beefed up resumes and we have to sort through those. When you're talking to a person, when you're interviewing them, if they're able to use AI to convince you that they can do the job, maybe they're not good for that job. Maybe at the end of the day, you find out that AI really boosts them too far. But if they can use AI that effectively, put them on your toughest challenges today, please.
Something else.
They are doing something with it that today we are not seeing tons of applicants mass apply through AI or figure out how to do it effectively. You're seeing a small few of them do it. Those are smart people that we should be tapping to solve our biggest challenges, not chastising them for cheating.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to get your thoughts on this. If you're in an interview, is it more comfortable for you to hold the phone as opposed to have written notes?
No, because if I was giving an interview with, say, somebody younger than me, if I was a little bit older, because I'm
or if you're being interviewed, is it more comfortable for you to have written notes or it to be on your phone and you flip through them?
I feel written notes are better because it's less of a distraction and less of a temptation. Because if I'm on my phone, there's a big chance that I want to like play a game or something.
I like this kid.
He's honest. He's an honest one. Remember I talked about being honest and authentic and talent experience? That's what you're going to get with this.
Yeah. And it's, it's funny because I've never actually thought about the whole notes thing versus I just thought it's just focus in the conversation. But if the notes are on the phone, isn't it the same thing as having notes in a binder and looking down?
Well, yes, it's just a digital format.
Yeah.
And think about the workplace that we live in. When was the last time you were on a Zoom call where you were 100% dialed in for the entire call? We're on our phones multitasking.
I may not be dialed in right now.
Appreciate you admitting that. But that's the world we live in, is we are also multitasking all the time. So again, isn't this just a symbol that they can actually do this like if they're not doing it effectively, that's an issue.
Right.
But if they're effectively communicating while they're doing that, I think we jump very quickly to old standards that we had once upon a time because they meant something that don't really mean as much now in the greater context of the world we live in.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we've asked this question, I'm going to say a few dozen times at least. And depending on the person, we get a different response. The majority of them say, no, absolutely not. Put the phone away. We've had one she's head of talent at a large automotive. She said, I get up and walk out. I'm done. Like and then she came back and she calmed down. She's like, I'll give it a shot. I was like, is everything okay? And then, but no one really said like, oh, hey, are you taking notes or whatever? It's just like, is everything okay? Like they come up with an excuse to give them a reason to put the phone away. And I was in that camp for a while. And I probably shouldn't record this because now William's going to hear it. And then he's like, see, I win the debate. But like, I've come around to the idea of, and part of his your comment where he said, I remember going in and taking notes and having, a little binder or portfolio and having my notes. What's the difference if it's on my phone?
Well, and also let's think about different styles that we're starting to appreciate more. If you're neurodivergent, holding eye contact for long periods of time is torture. That's not something that you're even capable of doing in some cases. Doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing the job.
Right.
And so we treat interviewing as if interviewing is the job. That's not the job. How are you actually assessing them for the job that you want them to do?
Right.
And if it has nothing to do with you have to make eye contact the whole time and not look at your phone or rely on notes, that's the only scenario in which that makes sense as a way to assess a candidate in that scenario.
Right.
So I just think we need to open our minds a little bit more, again, to a different reality that we live in today and the expectations that the younger generations also have about, but I see, like, I was just in one of the sessions and I was on my phone and I see my son looking at me on my phone in a session. Like, I am multitasking in that moment.
Yeah.
That's what they have learned from what we have taught them.
Mm-hmm.
We can't blame them for showing up to an interview using that same style.
No, I can remember, this is a long time ago, when Twitter first had come out and be on stage talking, doing something, and you look in the audience and everyone's on their phone. Like, what the hell? And in my mind, I'm talking, but in my mind, what the hell are they doing? And they're just tweeting.
They're live tweeting.
They're live tweeting. And it took a couple of times to get used to that because usually everyone's staring at you. And they weren't doing that. And it took some time to get used to that. So got one more question. I want to ask Aiden.
Yeah.
So what do you expect not that you're applying for jobs today, but if you were applying to a job, what would you expect an employer that process to be like?
I would probably think that they would start off with like what I've done to like to help the community, like community service. Have I been in like NJHS or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I would probably look at my history to make sure that I didn't like do anything bad, like didn't go to jail, wasn't in the gang, didn't get
Have you gone to jail?
No.
He
hesitated there.
You got to think about it. It's like, shit, my mom's here. Yeah, that it's interesting because it's now that my daughters are starting to all get jobs. It's like they expect so many different things, and for me, when I remember at that age, I just walked in. We had a handwrite application at the time. Did that and I got a job right there. They wasn't, I'll call you back. It was like, okay, you can go push carts or you can stock shelves at the supermarket. Now it's very different. I didn't have to wait. They have to wait. And they don't like that at all.
Well, we're not, young people especially, but all of us are now deprogrammed from having patience. Like we're used to immediate answers and immediate feedback and that sort of thing. But I do think there's value in learning some of that patience and not always rushing to give that immediate feedback. We've done that a lot in the candidate experience where the moment after you apply, we tell you you're rejected. That's not what we meant by speedy feedback because it usually doesn't contain any actual feedback. No, it's just you're rejected because someone else was more qualified than you, which you love because your resume matches the job description. No, that's not what happened. You just already had enough candidates and you didn't have time to review my resume. Right. But that's not, again, we're going back to, we have to be honest about that.
And test taking is that way too. Homework, I don't know, with you, at least in our district, the homework and the schooling is on campus or whatever it's called. But they do the work and it's immediate feedback, like question by question, right, wrong, right, wrong, right, wrong. They don't get a chance to just go through and learn it. It's just.
And then wonder about the mistake that they made and be able to spend the time on it. Yeah, it's just very much
they just keep selecting until it's right.
But again, we can't blame people for that. So then how do we maybe show up better to meet them where they're at? How do we get them better feedback to say, hey, we're not going to go with you because you didn't apply in time. We already had enough applicants. Like, let's start being honest about that. I don't know why we lie to candidates about that. Like, we just don't have time to look at you because we already have enough in this pool.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Or tell them, like, you don't have the skills that we are looking for. Here's how you might want to develop those skills. You want to be a lifeguard at the Y? You need this certification. That's what's missing, and that's why we didn't move you through to the next round. Here's some great places to go and get that. Yeah. Imagine if we made this more of a human conversation and as opposed to a rigid yes, no kind of line. Like, what if there's a gray area in there? Not yet. but we'd love to have you in the future. Here's how to get there. And we aren't creating enough of those pathways. So, of course, young people are frustrated. Older people are frustrated. We're all frustrated.
Well, anyone who's looking for a job right now
very frustrated.
Is frustrated. I mean, you see them over and over where it's, if I've applied, you see them on LinkedIn all the time. I've applied to 100 jobs. I've got 0 callbacks. And these are people with experience. I don't know if it's true or not, but they have experience, right? And they're good. I saw a movie last night because I had nothing better to do after the events here. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up. It was the guy was on a dating site. You might have seen it. It was Damon Wayans. He was on a dating site and he couldn't find love. And so the dating site, Love Guaranteed, it was called. Oh. Love Guaranteed. And so the dating site guaranteed you would find love within 1,000 dates. So he went on 1,000 dates. And it reminded me of the job search process because he took them all to the same restaurant, did the whole thing, had the same way, and everything was very standardized, and he couldn't find love. Fell in love with his lawyer in the end. I ruined the story for everyone, sorry. But it reminded me of the job search process because there was no feedback there. It was just come in, go on your date. He never said why. He just said, thank you, I'll see you next time. And they moved on and never called them back.
I think this level of patience is from short form content like YouTube Shorts and TikTok. It kind of generalizes what content and what patience level you're supposed to be at. And I think it's kind of shaped how everything's working in society and quick feedback, no commentary. It's just nothing. It's just quick responses.
It's just swipe, 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 which is exactly what we're going to do with your video. We're going to give them a 30-second cut and they're going to swipe, and it's going to get a lot of views and people will comment on it, but then they go to the next one and the next one, but they never get the full story.
Yeah.
It's an interesting take, and it's very true.
And you talk about the full story. You think about how that applies back to the candidate. Do we ever get the full story of a candidate?
No.
We've been talking about how the resume doesn't work for the longest time, but we still haven't fixed that.
Yeah.
And so you talk about, talent being on the market for a really long time.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're seeing right now. And we're seeing that even, the attention span shortening and the patience shortening, but it's also taking really talented people longer to find work, especially in specific segments of the workforce, high tech and other white collar jobs that have traditionally kind of been free from this kind of scrutiny and cuts. We had it at a small extent, but, we saw this with robotics, disrupting manufacturing and that sort of thing. We're now seeing it in white collar, and it's a huge wake-up call. But, it's definitely an issue with those feedback.
Yeah, the once safe job is no longer safe. And this is going to make me sound horrible. I don't want people to lose their jobs, but they've also had 20 years to upskill and not be complacent as well. So, and I know that's not the full
but this is another one of those debates. How much does the workforce own their own development versus the employer?
Right.
And I think there's been a lot of, well, it's not me kind of mentality on both sides. And almost we expect universities and certification programs and these others to create these ready-made, perfectly fit candidates. Skills are changing more rapidly than we can keep up. So you're not going to ever find that perfect fit candidate again. Right. You're going to have to develop some aspects of them. And again, this is a mindset shift of we always used to do it this way. So we're still looking for that purple squirrel, but they don't exist. We need to admit that and start to say, these regular squirrels will do just fine. We can put purple hats on them. Yeah. We've got to knit the hats though. That's makeup. On us.
We've got makeup. We can paint them. So, well, look, I know we could talk all day on this stuff. We can go on and on and on. So I know you guys are leaving today.
No, we're actually staying the weekend. Oh, so great. Making it worth it and getting away from that Detroit weather.
Yes. I'm out tomorrow. So, but we can talk all day on this, but I really appreciate your time. Congrats on a great session. And thank you for joining. We got some good insights there. I was impressed there. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.